Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Welcome to another match reaction. It's finished Watford 2, Wycombe Wanderers 0 at Vicarage Road. We're back to winning ways, which is brilliant. Our impeccable home form continues, and we've got a few guests on tonight. First off, we've got regular Sam. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm really good. Buzzing after that win. Really, I'm really happy for Andre. Really important to get the 3 points, particularly after Brentford slipped up, and it looks like Swansea is struggling a bit in their game at the moment as well. So it's really important that we kind of use this and carry on our momentum from here.
Absolutely. We're delighted to also welcome another regular on WD18, Mr. Sean Walker. Sean, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, man. Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. And also, we've got a special guest on today. Last week we had Jordan. This week we've got Mike from the Voices of The Vic podcast, which I highly recommend. Mike, how's it going, mate? Are you all good?
I'm super. Thanks for having me on, lads. Can't wait to talk about it. And thankfully, it's a win to mark my first appearance.
Mate, absolute pleasure to have you on. I'll tell you what, before I forget at the end of the show, make sure you do go check out the Voices of the Vic podcast. It's a really, really good show. I've been on it. Elliot's been on it. And the links are in the description. So make sure you give them a follow on Twitter and Instagram and give their podcast a listen. It's really good stuff. We've already got a bit love in the comments. The Watford way. Great to see Mike on. We've got Shane, Mike Duffy, the man himself. Sam, we're going to go straight into it. Wycombe today, 2-0 win. A big win for Watford. I think it was really important that we got a reaction. First off, what did you make of the Watford performance and result?
Yeah, so it's we were just saying off air before. It's kind of it's a difficult one to kind of look at, because while it wasn't the best performance, I don't think it had to be anything more than what it was. I don't think we had to get out of first gear at all. I thought Wycombe did well at what they kind of do. They got very physical with us at times, and on the whole, they defended quite well. But as soon as we got the first goal, it pretty much killed off the game, and we were pretty comfortable throughout the whole thing, and we didn't really ever look under threat. So it was pretty comfortable. And at the end of the day, it's about getting results at the moment, regardless of the performance.
Sean, did you feel like we were in control for most of that game, really? I can't remember Wycombe really having to test Daniel back when there was potentially a nervy moment at the start of the second half where the ball went in. But apart from that, did you feel like we were in control for most of it?
Yeah, I think the first goal really set the tone, to be honest. I think that was really important with our home form. Wycombe are always going to really fight for everything, even if they are like 12 points adrift, I think. Last time we played them, Chris Iwelumo scored the winner, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure. So
I think that was the first goal, the Potso era, wasn't it? Big Chris.
Club legends. But obviously, they're playing bigger teams, better teams. I'm not going to claim that we're massive, but they're playing bigger teams.
You can say we're massive. We are massive.
We're massive. We are massive.
The ones are huge, mate.
But yeah, obviously they're playing at better stadiums, bigger players. They're really, individually for their own careers, they've got a lot to fight for. But the first goal set the tone. They're always going to fight for everything. But when you've got like Sierralta at the back, who's an absolute dog, as well as Ikpeazu,
yeah.
Yeah, don't want to get his name wrong. Former Hornet. I was going to say I don't want to get a former Hornet. But he has been. As soon as he's joined, he's been an absolute handful for them. I think Akinfenwa kind of fits a certain stereotype, but Ikpeazu kind of has everything. He's great touch for a big man, as they always say. But he's got a great touch. So yeah, I think the first goal really set the tone, and then after that, it was I was kind of just waiting for the second. I think we had a really good chance to kind of kill it off. I think Sema with the blocked shot, and it could have fallen for Bray or Sarr. So yeah, I think it was. I think we were speaking a bit before about how it's just a routine win. I can agree more. I think we've kind of seen similar performances against like Rotherham and such, where it was kind of a bit weird because we're in second gear, and it was kind of how we've played for most of the season up until our run of 4 wins, where we're just kind of comfortable, not looking to do anything particularly special. But I think as soon as Zinkernagel created that magic, that was it for me. The second goal kills it, because Wycombe don't get battered. Often their games are very tight, but once you get the second at home, that was it. I think the early goal, I predicted a 2-0 win before the game with Andre Griswold, and I didn't think we'd score twice, but I knew if we got the first goal, we'd set the tone and then kill them off with the second. It was the only worries you say was that's kind of offside goal. It was that kind of in between period was our only real worry, I think. But yeah, it was a routine win and important after our first loss in a while.
Mike, what did you make of the performance, mate? Just wanted to cross over to you. Big result for Watford tonight. Back to winning ways. What stood out for you from the Watford performance?
I think it was a reaction. We big disappointment at the weekend, losing to Bournemouth, and I think we just wanted to win. A lot of people would have expected us to completely brush Wycombe aside tonight. Being bottom of the league, but Sam's pointed it out. I think Sam said before the recording, Wycombe aren't going to lay down and let you they're not going to roll over for you. They're going to press. They're going to attack. They've got big blokes. We were saying Ikpeazu, the ball stuck to him. Akinfenwa on the bench to bring on. Kashke, I'm surprised he didn't start. He's a little whippet of a player he is. So I was just hoping that we'd get through it, and I think the lads have touched on it superbly there. I thought it was a comfortable enough win. I don't think that they had a shot on target from memory. Backman had very little to do. Possibly a few shaky moments in the second half, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But it was just important to win. However we did it, we had to get those 3 points after Saturday. And we've kept the pressure on Brentford. Look, level on points with Brentford now. 4, I think the goal difference is between us and Brentford. Swansea at the moment drawing. If they can get hailed to a draw with Stoke, or if Stoke can nick one late on, we're laughing. We sort of back in the race for automatic promotion, and I think a few people it's been up and down at the moment, but I think we're well and firmly back in that race.
Yeah, we are back in it. Sam, for you tonight, Andre Gray was obviously the main headline, getting 2 goals. We touched on in the preview, Sam, about who should lead the line in João Pedro's absence. But that is going to do Andre's confidence the world of good. And I think a lot of people have said it. We've said it a number of times on the channel. It felt like every game was last chance saloon for Andre, but it really did feel like that tonight, and he stepped up when it mattered.
Yeah, I was originally surprised to see him in there. I think we all kind of thought that Stipe Peretz would be in there because, I think we thought that he'd suit kind of Wycombe's defence better in terms of attacking them. But seeing Andre in there, I immediately thought that, with João Pedro out, this is going to be his last chance to kind of stake a claim to start from now on in this Watford squad. And, he didn't half prove most people wrong, to be fair to him. I thought he did really well. His movement off the ball was good. A couple of touches to hold it up were really good. And obviously the finishes were, not the most difficult ones, but for a player low on confidence mentally, when you're having to take a second and perhaps not overthink it, but kind of not have that striker's instinct that you have when you're in form. Really impressive to see him getting in those positions and putting them away. And I'm buzzing for him because while, I've been one to criticise him, a lot of Watford fans have criticised him. You have to be pleased for him that, hopefully he's coming out of this awful run of form that he's been on, and hopefully he's going to reap the rewards for, hopefully the hard work that he's putting in.
Sean, it's a difficult question. We're going to fire over to you now.
Always get the difficult ones.
The big dilemma ahead of Saturday, Sean, is the Notts Forest game. Who leads the line? Because Zhao's obviously out. He got a red card against Bournemouth. He's coming back. He was in form before that game. Andre Gray bags a brace tonight. Who leads the line up front on Saturday?
Oh, I'm not Cisco Munoz. On to next one, no. The thing is, I think we had this with Andre Gray at the start when he was scoring goals and then he'd get dropped, and then Deeney would score a goal and then he'd get dropped. I don't want that to happen, but also I think it's not as severe because Andre Gray has only scored in 2 games this whole season. I know he's come off against a brace now, but when João Pedro's been in, we've won 4 out of 5. So I think it depends how Munoz wants to play. If he has a system and he thinks Gray can suit it better, then fair enough. But I think I would start João Pedro. And if the only reason Gray's starting is because he scored a brace against Wycombe, I don't think that's the right way to go about it. But on the positive side of Andre Gray, I think, as Sam said, I just thought he hit it with such conviction. It wasn't the most impressive goal, but it's the type of goals that he, in his prime, he would score naturally. And as you say, he hasn't had that kind of natural instinct. But it felt like, after both the first and the second finishes, he had a bit of time, but I just thought he hit it with such confidence. And I thought, I haven't seen that from Andre Gray in so long. So that was a big positive. I would ease him in, maybe I mean, he's knocking on the door, but I'd keep him knocking for a couple of weeks, to be honest.
Is Jacob frozen?
Oh, Jacob.
There's the connection thing.
Yeah, he was saying before his connection's a bit dodgy.
Yeah, but no, just anyway, just carrying on with Andre Gray. I think it's really pleasing to kind of see him doing well, because I know a lot of people not taking enjoyment in the fact that Gray's form kind of went off, but it's really, it's just good to see a weight off his shoulders as a striker. Yeah. That's what he wants to do, and it's been a difficult few months for him as well. So it's really good to see that. But Mike, I'm just taking over Jacob's role here as Molly comes back. No, but another really kind of promising person tonight, Philip Zinkernagel. I was wondering what you made of him. Got a really good assist tonight. So, he's gone completely now. The whole structure's changed. Sorry, we'll get Jacob back on here. We'll get Jacob back on here as soon as we. Oh, here he is. Jacob, I was just asking Mike. I was just taking over. I was asking Mike about Philip Zinkernagel, but
Jacob. No, I'll tell you what, Sam. That is a phenomenal substitution from you. Absolutely superb.
That's Taylor for you coming in.
Apologies. Yeah. Sean jinxed it. He said pre-match. He said about the McDonald's Wi-Fi, and it's definitely playing up here. Mike, what were you saying about? What did I miss about Philip Zinkernagel? What was so good about his performance today? Because he looked really bright. To be fair, I thought.
He did. When I saw the team sheet, I was still a little bit annoyed that we were playing him in the middle, because I do think we are going to get the best out of him, possibly out on the flanks. But listen, he did a job in the middle. I can't complain at him. There was a few sort of iffy moments, but overall, I thought he was brilliant. And as the boys have said, he's picked up an assist, so it's only going to help him confidence-wise. And, he had a few shots himself. Granted, they probably ended up in Occupation Road, but, it's the confidence he's got. He's got the confidence in the first place to take it on, and he's got the assist now. He's got a goal to his name already. So I think I think we need to start him going forward. He needs to get a run of consecutive games, and we'll really start to see the promising player that we brought over from Norway.
Yeah, he looks really bright, doesn't he, Sam? I think that assist for the second goal just showed so much composure. And I think particularly, as Mike said, we've got to bear in mind is the fact he's a natural winger playing in central areas as like another centre mid. Like the way he's adapted is so impressive.
No, exactly. I think that's kind of, at times we've kind of missed that kind of player this season, that player who can play in between the lines, between the midfield and the attack. And I know he's naturally a winger, but if he can fill in there when we don't have players like Domingos Quina, for example, who can play in that hole, it's really good to see that he got an assist tonight and picking up some really good positions. By no means was tonight perfect from him. I think a couple of times, as Mike said, he hit the ball over to Occupation Road and probably smashed the window in the Red Lion as well. So, it will improve with minutes, and hopefully he's earned that tonight, because he's going to be an important player for us when we need to be creating chances against a low block like we're playing against tonight.
Yeah, Sean, it leads on to another point I kind of picked up from tonight was Tom Cleverley's injury. And we'll touch on a little bit on Clevs in a moment, but more in terms of that maybe the lack of options we now have in central midfield. We are a bit light there. And for you, does it now make sense why we are getting linked with the likes of Carlos Sanchez to come in? Because the way it's going at the moment, and fingers crossed Cleverley's injury isn't serious, we do need another body in there. Yeah,
definitely. I think with Capoue leaving, I think Gosling kind of only really came in for Capoue, but we were always a little bit light in midfield. We were constantly at the start of the season waiting for Capoue and waiting for Hughes to come back from injury or whatever. So yeah, it does make sense in the sense that we need another midfield body. I'm no transfer scout, but a 35-year-old who's had an ACL, I'm hoping it's low risk if the wages aren't too bad, but 88 caps for Colombia. West Ham are ridiculous with their wages. I'm just hoping that he's not asking for a ridiculous wage at the end of the day. But yeah, it does make sense. I'm hoping it's not a big injury, because I mean, since the midfield three, Will Hughes has been brilliant, but he's always been brilliant. I think Cleverley's really upped his game. He really suits. If he can, I think he's shown today that he can play deep as well as in that 10, because he kind of came in for Chalobah's role today and executed it very well. but he's also shown the versatility that he can play in the 10, he can press from the front. And I'm hoping if Gosling as well has a minor injury, Chalobah suspended for Saturday, it could be a makeshift midfield. I hope that doesn't trigger Cisco and Munoz to go back to like a 4-4-2 or to go back to a 2-man midfield, because it'd be understandable because if he's forced into it, but it would be really disappointing because I think as tired as Sarr and Sema were today, I think they were still causing all sorts of trouble, and ultimately that's where the first goal was created from. And then once you've got that first early goal at home with our home record, it just sets the tone, and it becomes another routine home win. So it'll be interesting to see how we play out on Saturday. I think the biggest thing, I'm glad we're playing at home rather than away, because otherwise I really would be worrying.
Yeah, Sean mentioned the 4-4-2, Mike. We've seen a few comments in the chat actually. Nick says Wilmot may end up in midfield. Peter also says Wilmot in the middle. The dilemma, I guess, is, Mike, is you can play Wilmot in a 3, or it'd be a lot to ask Carlos Sanchez to slot straight in there, or you go to a 4-4-2 and play, well, even Zinkernagel as a central midfielder, or you play maybe even Wilmot. If you were Cisco Munoz, what would you do? Continue with the 4-3-3 and maybe fit Wilmot in there, or go with a 4-4-2 and play slightly out of position?
I think he has to stick with the 4-3-3. We can't go back down the route of 4-4-2. It'd just be suicidal from him. It really, really would. Because, if we somehow managed to get a result, then, he might think, 4-4-2 does work still. So he goes down that route. So I think Wilmot, hopefully Clevs is all right. But if worst case scenario, I think Wilmot's probably the better person to maybe slot in there. He's slotted in. I think he played more out of position this season than he has in position, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He had a left back,
right back,
QPR. Exactly. So definitely Wilmot. I think if push comes to shove, it's Wilmot for me. But still 4-3-3. We cannot revert back to that 4-4-2.
Sam, I wanted to get your thoughts on Clevs. Didn't look good, did it? Initial thoughts on that? I mean, he, the way he reacted and the way, I think it was Hughesy and Truce Kong went round Clevs, they look concerned. Are you concerned as well?
I think you can kind of see on a player's face as soon as an injury happens. I'm no medic or anything, but I'm as much of a medic as Sean is a scout. But
don't dig me up, boy. Don't dig me up.
I think it just, you could see on his face straight away that he had to come off. I think he carried on playing for a minute or so after, and then had to walk off the pitch. But absolutely massive, not just in terms of what he brings on the ball, but off the ball with his leadership as well, and the press that he sets in terms of the pressing. It's going to be absolutely, massive that it's not a long-term injury. I really hope, particularly with the knee as well, that it's one of those that could end up being a long time. I would not, even if he's, seems to be okay through scans, I wouldn't touch him on Saturday. Leave him out of the squads. Just don't strain it or anything like that. But it's difficult. Don't really want to comment on it until we hear more. But hopefully, the other injuries like Dan Gosling's aren't too serious as well. And just 2 more games until Chalobah's back, which will be really welcome as well.
Sam, just on that, Carlos Sanchez, is it now integral we get a body in that respect?
Yeah, I think it is. I don't know how close that deal is, but it's important just to have the. That's Elliot. He's at the press conference, isn't he?
Yeah. Elliot's at the press conference. This is a little update on Cleverley. So he's going to have a scan tomorrow. Cisco Munoz, not short on severity of injury, but seemed to be his knee, which is a concern. Go on, Sam.
Yeah, no, it is a concern. So it's important to have a body through the door with Carlos Sanchez. I don't know how much experience he'd bring, but just something else that just came into my mind, that with Foster out, with Deeney out, with Cleverley out, I know we've got some experience in this side in Truce Kong and even Hughesy, but it's turning into a side that perhaps doesn't have as much championship experience before, and that is concerning. But fingers crossed, it's not that bad. Yeah,
and Shane does mention it in the chat. We did do the same thing with Tom Deli Bashira. I think there was a bit of a delay with the scan. Sean, impact of Clevs being out. Obviously, we don't want to assume anything just yet, but I think the fact he was holding his knee, it doesn't look great. No,
it doesn't. it's positive signs about Dele Bashiru. Now we're back on the topic, but even still, I wouldn't play him until the end of the season. To be honest, give him that sum. I can give him an extended period, because I know he only played a few games, but he looked seriously bright. And I think he'd have been playing. It would have probably taken a Capu or a Hughes or something to come back in to displace him in the team. So, it's a worrying thing, as you say. You can't kind of really
comment
prepare for these things. You can't comment and you can't prepare for these things. I mean, it's good that clearly Pozzers have seen something before to even, scout Sanchez and talk to him and start negotiations. But I think we do need to sign him if Cleverley's out, at least even for like a month, 2 months. It could be the fixture list is so congested that games come so quickly. I mean, we won our first 3 games out of that run of 4 in like 9 days or something. So if you're missing a month, you could seriously miss, and it's in the most crucial time of the season as well. So I don't want to comment too much, but it's not a good sign.
It doesn't look good. It just doesn't. Yeah, just going back to what I was saying though, just as soon as he went down holding his knee like that, you can see the pain in his face as well.
And he's had a history of injuries as well.
Yeah,
he's an experienced professional. I think he knows his body at this age, but it's a good thing that we've been playing Wilmot once he came in as a midfield rather than a centre back. I know he can do both, and I think he said he prefers to play centre back. But I mean, under Gracia, I don't know if you boys were at Spurs away at MK Dons. Spurs away, but he's
away day, by the way.
Quality away day.
Never forget when they put "This is Spurs" on the inside of the. Oh my
god! Capu last minute equaliser. That was mental.
But Wilmot's had some like seriously impressive performances in midfield, and I think he may have played there at Udinese by memory.
He did.
He did. So he has got experience of it. He's got the technical ability for it. So I think I agree with Mike. I think we've got to go 4-3-3. Zinkernagel with a 10. Hughes can still kind of play that 8 role, and then have Wilmot as a 6.
Yeah, Mike, I just wanted to cross over to you on a more positive note, and that was Joseph Hungbo coming on today. Actually, it was great to see him get some minutes. What have you made of him? Obviously, it hasn't been a full game, but we saw him at Old Trafford. We saw him tonight. I like the look of him. I don't know about you.
Really lively in both games against Manchester United. I think when he come on, it was another 10-minute cameo. I think he had at Old Trafford. Come on, and pretty much straight away had a shot at goal. It was deflected, went wide. He's just a live wire. Tonight, Paritza just couldn't get there, could he, for that cross? Brilliant initiative, but he just looks such a live wire. And when we've got 2 pace merchants on the either flanks in Sema and Sarr, when you bring in someone on to replace one of them who has also got the legs on him like that, it is refreshing to see. He's definitely going to be one to hopefully keep an eye on, and like Tom Dele Bashiru and amongst others as well. I think he's going to be one that will be starting in the team if he can get a run of games, but maybe not this season. Sarr and Sema would have to really cock up to lose their place there, but in the future, not so distant future, I definitely think he'll be a hit for Watford. Mike, really do like the look of him.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. I thought he looked really bright when he came. I just wanted to ask you, Mike, about Cisco's substitutions today. I saw a comment on Twitter, actually, which the only criticism for tonight was his subs, because I think there was one person mentioned that Sarr could have maybe been given a rest at around 70 minutes. Some of these players, he's got 5 substitutions available, but some of these players haven't been given a rest. I think Kiko's probably one of them, but he got given a rest tonight about halfway through the second half. But Sarr, is that a little bit of frustration for you that certain players aren't getting a little bit more of a rest? And I think Sarr in particular, because he's played so much football.
Well, I think I wouldn't have been angry if Sarr was given a rest full stop, let alone 70 minutes into the game or something. No disrespect to Wycombe, and we knew what we were going to expect with Wycombe, but I wouldn't have been massively cross if he'd have stuck Zinkernagel out on there, because I think he played mostly out on the right. He can play with both feet. So, but the substitutions is a strange one. Me and Ben have a running joke on the podcast that it's usually around the 60-minute mark. So when I looked at the clock and it was the 62nd minute, and I thought, hang on a minute, we've not brought anyone on. We don't look like, and you can sort of understand, because we looked comfortable enough, and you thought, well, would you really change anything? But I think Sarr, like you say, Sarr definitely needs a rest. And I think if there was a game, obviously all the games are key from here on in, but if there was a game to rest him and maybe rest a few others, again, no disrespect to Wycombe, but tonight was the night to really do it. Obviously, you don't want to make wholesome changes because then you run the risk of sort of overrun. But I think, you know, he maybe would have benefited from having a rest tonight, I think.
Yeah, Sam, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, because we've discussed it before, haven't we, about the kind of game management of this Watford team, which I think we lacked against Bournemouth a little bit, but more from a tactical standpoint today. What did you make of Cisco Munoz' approach, and in terms of the substitutions Mike touched on?
Yeah, I think it was. I don't think he set up badly originally from the start of the game. I was surprised, as I mentioned, to see Andre Gray in there. But in hindsight, obviously he got that right. Gray got 2 goals. And I think at times Wycombe played a bit higher than I thought they'd play. Bear in mind, I don't really watch them, so perhaps I was wrong all along. But yeah, the substitutions really did surprise me. It was good to see Kiko come off and then Gaki to get some minutes. Yeah, just Sarr and Sema just being left on for that long, just really, it didn't, not that it didn't sit well with me, but I think Ken Sema's the one that looks absolutely exhausted at the moment. He's not having the same impact on games that he was having at the start of the season. He had a little flurry against Bristol City the other week where he got a couple of goals, but he looks so off it, and I don't blame him for that because I just think he's exhausted and he hasn't played this many games in one go in his career off the top of my mind. So I think tonight would have been the opportunity to probably let a couple of them sit out, but yeah, I suppose.
Would you rest him, Sam? Would you rest Sema? Because he looks knackered.
I think Sema's the one, not Sarr, who I think needs to come out. I think if anything, I think João Pedro, if he comes back, it will be on the left, and perhaps keep Andre down the middle. But that's probably one for the preview. But yeah, he needs to come out before. You know, I'm not saying he's risking injury or anything, but just mentally as well, playing that many games in that amount of time, while perhaps not putting in your best performances, can have, you know, bad effects further down the line in the season.
Sean, I wanted to ask you about Kiko and Sarr. I saw you put a tweet out at half-time saying they will have a field day down the right-hand side. I went as far to say that I don't think any defence could deal or defend against those two when they're in full flow. Thoughts on that? I'm going to guess that you'd agree with that statement.
I agree with you, Jacob. It's a great tweet. I'll give it a retweet now.
Give it a like.
I mean, I've spoken on this podcast before about just how effective and how talented that right hand side is. It's ridiculous. Even in the Premier League, they were causing all sorts of trouble. I think they realistically won us that game against Newcastle, which I thought was going to keep us up. We move, but I think they sort of won that game by themselves, winning the penalty and getting that first goal. They were ridiculous, and they've shown it throughout the whole season. I think I feel for Jeremy Ngakia because I think he's brilliant. He's literally coming in, and you often get West Ham fans going, "Oh, he's not getting game time," and it's no fault through his own. It's just Kiko Femenía has just upped his game, and he just looks a cut above every fullback in this division, or every right back anyway. Yeah, I think they're brilliant, but I definitely agree. I think Sarr should have definitely come off. I wouldn't have been angry if either Sarr or Sema was on the bench tonight. I think you need at least one of them, the way we play in behind and drilling crosses in. I think you need one of them because they're so crucial to how we play. But the worry with Sema is that if he's put in a couple of, I don't want to say poor performances, but not performances which are kind of far from his best. If you leave him and that kind of carries on and it just kind of drags it on and it makes you don't want to ruin a player who we've kind of waited a couple of years on and he's finally shown his best football, and then we're kind of messing about with him. And with Sarr, I think he should have been subbed off probably 80th towards the end. I mean, it was ridiculous. I was kind of glad that he wasn't pressing, he wasn't running, he was just holding the ball up and just kind of walking. I think he took a shot from about 35 yards, trying to outdo Zinkernagel, I think. But yeah, I think he's kind of in himself. He knew he needed to rest himself. So it'd be interesting to see how Munoz kind of deploys his subs moving forward. That's always been a bit of a critique I think I've had personally for.
Yeah, Mike, one point that's kind of come into my head now we've mentioned Kiko was the defence actually overall tonight. And, I think we can all agree it's probably been the strongest aspect of Watford's squad this season. I mean, we've been phenomenal at the back, particularly at home. I think I just saw a comment from Elliot, actually, which was a really good point. But I just want to get your thoughts on this, Mike. I'm not sure if you've covered this, but really happy with how they handled Ikpeazu. We've struggled against big strikers this season, and we coped tonight. What did you make of our defence tonight, Mike?
It was always going to be tough when you're coming up against Ikpeazu, but I think when you come up a player against that, he's going to draw fouls and everything. But I think overall we handled him pretty well, and I think that's testament to Troost-Ekong and Sierralta as well. Because I don't know what you guys have thought, but I thought Troost-Ekong the last couple of games has maybe looked a bit shaky. So it was very promising and very good to see that he was sort of back to his best, if you like, this evening against such a big player as well. And then Akinfenwa, you think, oh, thank God he's coming on. And then you see Akinfenwa coming on as well. And you're thinking, Jesus Christ, am I going to get a rest here? So, yeah, I think they handled it overall very well because, they didn't get a shot on target. Is that down to their quality himself, their quality, Wycombe's quality? Who cares? Who knows? But I think overall, the defence was brilliant. Sierralta, how he's 23 years old, is beyond me. No, honestly, we've got a star on our hands here, man. If we don't go up, we're in trouble. We're losing him if we don't go up. Because
how good do you think he is, Mike?
Do you know what I think the maddest thing about it all is? He literally got his break into the team because of injuries. We saw him against.
He was like sixth choice under Rivich or something, wasn't he?
We saw him against Oxford or Newport, and I thought, this guy's crap. Hopefully we never see him again. He was on the bench one of the times later on in the season. I thought, Jesus Christ, hopefully we don't get an injury and he doesn't come on. Those Chilean fans in the social medias, they were right, man. They were right all along. I love him over there. I love him. Yeah. But no, he's class, mate. He's a class. Absolutely. It's typical. He's what we needed last season.
I know. The thing with Sierralta is, I don't know how you think of it, Mike, but I thought because we were so defensive with Ivic, it kind of felt like, the defense is good, but I don't think we were asked many questions. Where now we've kind of sacrificed at the back, but it doesn't feel like it because we have Sierralta, and then we've got so much more going forward, which is really just you can see our form. It's improved everything really.
I don't think I've seen a calm defender like him and calm on the ball since probably Angela. And then maybe Cassetti as well. He's as cool as a cucumber he was. But in terms of defence, exactly. Yeah. In terms of defensive sort of stalwarts, if you like, the centre backs, he's what we've needed. And the fact, I just find it crazy, like I say, that he got his break because of injuries. But hey, look, Bachmann got his break because of that, and he's been doing well. So it just goes to show that the Pozzos are at it again with these gems from abroad. So,
Sam, thoughts on the two? Yeah, spot on, Mike. And just on the two centre backs tonight, Troost-Ekong came in, which after Cathcart's mistake on the weekend, I guess we can understand why he's come back in. But I think Mike mentioned it there about how the two centre backs dealt with him. It seems like Troost-Ekong really thrives against the physical striker. I've noticed that. But Sierralta is the same with every striker. I mean, he is absolutely dominant in the air. But Troost-Ekong really does like that battle in the first half. I mean, he was giving it some to Ikpeazu.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I'm quoting you, Jake, from earlier in the season, I think you said that Troost-Ekong gets better where the better the striker he's playing against is. And if I'm kind of rephrasing that, I think he gets better the more physical the other striker is, rather than anything else. Because I think he has struggled at times in terms of pace and when we are being pressed quite a bit. But when he's, I thought he handled I can't even say his name. It's Ikpeazu. Yeah. He handled him really, really well tonight, and just on the ball as well with the ball at his feet, he looks so much more composed. I know he said that that's an area of his game that he needs to work on, and I know it won't be our most difficult game this season, but it's good to see that he's probably been working on that, and I think that's probably Cisco's go-to partnership, and I think he'll probably rotate between Cathcart and Troost-Ekong. I think he probably sees Wilmot as midfielder from when he's brought Wilmot on. So I think it's good to see that we've got some consistency in that area.
Yeah, and it kind of it's a nice segue on to Saturday, Sean. And it looks like we'll be coming up against Glenn Murray, of course, which is going to be an interesting affair. It would be very Watford for him to score against us and then give us a good celebration.
To be fair, he'd be in his right to do so. To be fair.
Yeah. I agree with you, mate. Just looking ahead to Saturday, Sean. In terms of what we saw tonight, is it more of the same? Would there be changes you'd make? What any different approaches from Watford going into that one?
I think it's a good point that Sam made. I didn't really think about is you could have João Pedro on the left. If you kind of want to bridge the gap between midfield and attack, Zinkernagel kind of drifted in and around a bit, often going out wide, and then the ball would fall kind of in the position of the 10. And I was thinking, where's Zinkernagel? And I thought, to be fair, he's just made the run out wide. So unless you kind of had him more inside rather than a natural winger trying to beat your man out on the outside, because João Pedro is not that type of player. He's going to be kind of dropping in holes and linking the play. So Cisco Munoz could go with that. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there's much changes. I think before I was constantly thinking, why isn't he playing? But now when there's changes, it's all kind of understandable. It's with reason. It's because this player's playing well, this player's also playing well. Fixtures are so congested where before it just kind of felt like we're rotating to try and get a system that works, and maybe this is his day. And so it's a lot less panicked. I think there's a lot more thought and structure behind the changes, but I don't think I'd really change anything. Maybe Cathcart coming back in for Truce, but you don't want to change it too much. I think centre backs is a position where it's good when you have. I think it's good when you have a starting two centre back and maybe one who comes in and out every so often. I think we had in the Premier League, we'd have like Prodal, Cathcart, Britos, and they all kind of came in and out at different times. But for the most part, it was a solid partnership for a few games, and then it would change, and that partnership would build for a few games rather than every single game changing. So I wouldn't necessarily change anything. If there are changes, then I'd understand it. Maybe Pochettino up front. I'd like to see that. But, other than that, no.
He's magic.
Too soon. Moving on from the
We're gonna cross over to the backtraction on Saturday, and Sam's in tears in the box of tissues.
It was originally Capu. It used to be a running joke on it that I mentioned Capu every time, and if it's Calafeu, I'm going to be in tears even if we win.
The WD18 bingo where Sam mentions Capu.
Oh, cross that one.
Mike, I wanted to get your thoughts going into Saturday. We've got a comment here from Ellis, which says Murray and James Garner, who I forgot to mention, will have a point to prove on Saturday against us. Obviously, both players started at Watford halfway through the season. They left to Nottingham Forest in January. After tonight's result, Mike, are you feeling confident going into Saturday?
Mate, I've been supporting Watford 20 odd years. I've never felt confident with one game in my life. We could be top of the league, 20 points clear, mate, and I'd still be like,
here we go again.
Yeah, exactly. No, listen, as soon as we're at home, like any home game this season, it's honestly the most confident I've felt for a long time. The only thing is Chris Hughton has sort of started getting a tune out of them. Murray and Garner had to bag. You know it's going to happen. Like if Murray or Garner don't bag, they'll have the games of their lives. And I think the boys have said, you and Sam have both said, and Sean, when they come up, when Truce comes up against a more physical striker, I think do that with Glenn Murray. I spoke to a Forest fan earlier today, and he said that they're not taking the chances they got. And I says, mate, that sounds so similar to what we've had in the past. So, it sounds like Glenn Murray needs sort of 3 or 4 chances to maybe put away one. You stick 2 big lumps on him like Sierralta and Truce Kong, is he going to get anything out of it? The problem is, are we going to allow James Garner to sort of pull the strings? I never thought I'd say that, but are we going to allow him to do that, especially if Cleverley's out? If we've got a makeshift sort of midfield, that's the thing I'm worried about, because that seems to be what he's doing at the moment. I mean, it'll have a personal edge for me because I'm living in Nottingham at the moment. A lot of my mates are Nottingham Forest fans, so I'm sure I'll hear the no end of it if we do lose. But as you've said as well, you've got that headache of does Andre Gray, he's just scored 2 goals. Will it damage his confidence even more if he gets dropped? Do you play Pedro out on the left? I know Gray's personal record against Forest, in 4 games, he's been involved directly with 3 goals, 2 goals and 1 assist. So, little things like that will play on players' minds and think, I do quite well when I come up against Forest. So it's going to be a tough one. I think stick with the same side. Pedro, I think bring him on sort of later on in the game if Gray's if we're not getting anything out of Gray. But because we're at home, I think we will edge it. He's going to be another I'm trying to think of the word. It's going to be a very tight game, I think. Forest, he seems to have sort of tightened them up at the back. So it's going to be another close game, but I think we'll come out on top just. But who cares, man? 3 points is 3 points.
Exactly that. I'll tell you what, Mike, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. It's an absolute pleasure having you on, mate. And you'll feel free to come back on any time. Want to make you aware to the Voices of the Vic podcast, because some brilliant stuff. Mike and Ben, brilliant podcast. The link is in the description below if you want to follow them on Instagram and Twitter, and also their podcast as well, which I'm sure is on all platforms. Mike, where else can we find you in terms of the podcast?
Spotify, Apple Podcasts. This is where I'm crap because I don't know where else does podcasts. Anywhere that does podcasts, I'm sure we're on there.
SoundCloud, everywhere. Thank you very much, Mike, for coming on, mate. Sam, as always, top man. We'll be back for a match preview on Friday for the Nottingham Forest game. Yeah. Sean, always a pleasure having you on. And thank you to all of you who watched tonight. Please do leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Apologies for the technical difficulties. It was a great result tonight, and I just got a little bit too excited. That's why the Wi-Fi crashed. But thank you very much for coming, watching, guys. Make sure you do leave a like on the video. Don't forget to subscribe to WD18. We'll be back for some more Watford-focused content very, very soon. And thank you very much for watching. Come on, you Hornets.